Well, I think it's live, John.
Yeah, you want to explain this agenda?
It's gonna be the fastest communications agenda.
Good, not good. I didn't.
We're holding you to it.
Yeah. Are you keeping track of time? Do you have a bet?
I don't,
Yeah.
no.
Well, you're all set, John, to start.
Okay. All right, today is Monday, May 9th at 4 o'clock. This is the Communications Committee meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Item 2 is roll call. Tracy, can you call the roll?
Council Snyder. Here. Council Johnson.
Yes,
Council Anderson.
Yes,
Thank you.
here. Item 3 is approval of the April 4th meeting minutes. Can I get a motion?
so move.
Second,
Any discussion?
looks great. Council Snyder. Yes. Council Johnson.
Yes,
Council Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item 4 is budget communications update. I think Allison, you're gonna give us an update on what you're
Yeah.
seeing.
Last time we met, was pretty soon after it had been presented, and is that when we met with the school? Yeah.
Yep.
So since then, that same week, we published a budget overview newsletter, and we had done that last year too. So that kind of kicked off announcing it. And I believe also at that time, we had talked about going with the theme of responding to community needs and just showcasing how in each department area, the budget kind of speaks to that and responds to the community survey concerns that were heard. So it kicked off with that newsletter. Since then, I've been working with Peter Coleman, who we met with a few months ago about the cable TV channel. He has some video experience and background and was really interested in helping to develop some videos just for the town ongoing. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of like have him help with that. So we came up with a plan to break it out into more of a series of how it's responding to community needs. And we met with different department heads. Okay, yeah, so there's 2 of them. Right now, we've launched the police one and public works, but we're doing 5 or we're doing 6 total. And so we recorded all of them. We had those times with the department heads and then came up with kind of a release schedule. So it's going to be happening throughout the month of May. And so Peter's been working in the background of getting those finalized. But yeah, so that's going to be really exciting because he has great experience and they look like official videos.
They're
So
really good.
yeah.
Did you see, I saw the police one on Facebook.
Facebook.
so
Yeah,
you're-
I've been doing the launch on Facebook to start, but then I want everyone to be able to see them, so they're on the website, or I'm putting them on the website as I
Where do they go?
publish them. So right now, I haven't really promoted it yet, but if you go to
Okay.
Stay Connected, what's happening.
Oh, okay, it'll be under
This is
that.
a new page that
Yep.
we've been working on, this is kind of like the projects page.
yep.
So I made a municipal budget, right there on the right. I'm gonna be putting them on here.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, there's.
I titled it a budget for our community, just to kind of like keep with that theme.
Yeah.
And then, so it'll be 6 total, and then I'll have them all on there. So then I can link to this for future newsletters. Just to
Very
kind of
good.
keep people watching them. But yeah, so they've been well received so far. I mean, I wasn't sure based on the platform of being on Facebook and if they're all like a minute, well, these ones are like a minute and a half, but just like how people would respond. But the police one has been doing well. I think it has like 580 views right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that's been picking, I mean, right when I launched, it was like last weekend and kind of like slow getting going, but I think since then it's kind of picked up. So I'm hoping the
good.
other ones do that too. And I think Stevens, the public works one is at like probably like 275 views. So yeah, we'll see what
Yeah.
the more popular ones are, but
Do you have one for the school and the library in your queue or
I-
most of the departments?
I don't. So it's gonna be those, and then we're gonna do one about bike and pedestrian improvement projects. That's gonna be the next one. And kind of staggering them too. They're gonna be on like Saturdays and Tuesdays that we launch them. The transportation network study. And then Todd did the community center design topic, and then we'll end with fire. So, and the fire one is gonna be speaking to ARPA. So just about, or ARPA and just grant funding that they received to kind of talk about finding alternate sources of funding instead of taxpayer dollars.
Now, do these go also to the cable station?
That's a good point. We didn't talk about that, but that seems like a no-brainer, especially
Yeah.
since Peter's the one making
Like a
them.
loop.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
commercial between.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they still put the slides up.
Yeah.
I mean, they could just play in between the slides.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm so grateful to the department heads for doing those.
I
I know
know.
it's like not the
We
most
kinda threw it
comfortable
on them
thing
too,
to like
yeah.
make a video and then know it's gonna be up on Facebook.
Everywhere.
But I'm so grateful that they were
Yeah.
willing to do
I
that. That
know.
is amazing.
This was a really helpful experience for Peter and I too, because we did them all together and just like interacting with each of
Yeah.
the department heads and learning like a style of how we do this. It's gonna be hopefully easier moving forward, and I want to do it like.
Have you thought about doing one with the finance committee chair? To get-
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, that'll be the one that we end on.
Yeah.
So those are kind of like making their way throughout this coming month.
Awesome.
Just a couple other things too. We have scheduled out some spaces in the leader in the no column to talk about the budget. So I did that kind of right when it was announced. And then we did one about after the first finance committee review, a little recap on that. And we'll do one more before the election. And then lastly, last year, around this time, this week, last year, we did like an election overview email
Mhm.
in addition to the regular newsletter. So we're gonna do that again this coming Thursday, just kind of like reminding people the date and what they're
What's on the
voting on.
ballot.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
on the ballot, so.
How come we're not seeing any signs up
No idea.
there? Okay.
I thought
It's
the
well
same
within the
thing.
timeframe.
I thought it was quiet when, I came back from my trip and then it was school vacation week. And so I thought maybe we'd see signs pop out that week. And then they had candidates night, candidates night was mixed in there. And I was like, okay, like, I totally expected to see some kind of jump off of
Yeah. Do you
visual
remember, you
campaigning.
know what? I think last time we had that discussion
About
about having a
lawn sign.
general sign about just voting in general
Yeah,
that the town would own.
Yeah.
And we could plug it out there, What happened with that? I
I
know, I
think
think
we
we
kind
were
of
It was
Pricing.
cost
pricing.
prohibitive.
It was cost
prohibitive. Where we ended on that one?
yeah, or we just thought that other candidates are putting their own signs up, that there's enough traction with it, but now we're not seeing it.
We had some very good reason for why we did not move forward with that.
Okay.
Otherwise, great idea.
Right.
But there was, we did look into it.
details, right?
Well,
Because
I
we
mean-
were looking at it at the same time as the banner. That was the other one we were talking about, was
Right.
doing the
Yeah, we
banner at the
did
same
talk about
time. And that was, there's the ones.
And-
Just never came to.
Well, if it makes it through in the CIP, we are gonna fix the digital board out front too. And so it
Mhm.
seems like that would be redundant to spend money on a sign if we're planning on being able to use that.
I was actually thinking like our signs when we ran,
Yeah.
have them positioned.
Oh,
in
oh,
different
I
parts
see
of
what
town,
you
Just a generic vote.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Municipal election, June. 20th.
Sponsored by, yeah.
Anything, yeah, but I'm like I said, sure there was a good reason not to, probably $275 or something.
Cost prohibitive.
So yeah, budget, budget communications is ongoing and hitting different channels. All those videos are gonna be on the website and cross-promoted in the newsletter, things like that, so.
So a couple of things I wanted to share with you, and now maybe I'm not joking about you doing a video.
I figured that
There you
this was gonna come
go.
around to
Yeah,
not being a joke.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I was just looking, because the next item, or any questions for the budget communications, because I think this kind of rolls into the next item a little bit around the roundtables, where I was looking at my notes from one of the meetings where we actually had one person show up. And there were a lot of ideas that were floating around about communications to a degree. Some of them are outdated at this point because we're so far along, but one was, can we figure out how we better communicate the council goals, either on the website or through a video that just reminds people these were our goals and this is where we landed. Potentially could be a video or something on the website. And then there was some discussion around the tax computation sheet. Is there a easier way to display that information, again, maybe on the website or something? Because the current sheet, the feedback was it's like really important, but it's still a little cumbersome or difficult for the layman maybe to understand what does it mean. And so those were two items that were discussed, and I know it's coming up of like, well, how do we communicate the goal and where we are and,
If I recall it, that discussion though, the finance committee was gonna, I thought, kick around an idea to format that.
Yeah.
One sheet over sheet to make it a little bit more user friendly, see the mill rate. Without all the detail, but points in there that everybody will understand.
mhm. That might be something maybe after our recommendation or after the council. I don't know what the right timing would be, but
Or it'll probably have to be for next year.
Yeah, I think it's probably for
Okay.
FY 24
Right,
budget
right.
planning
Okay.
purposes,
But
but
we could definitely use some time
Yeah.
on a committee, right?
yeah,
for
I
sure.
would think.
so those were just a couple of the
What
thoughts.
bullet was that? Was that 4 or 5 that you just discussed?
For this one, I was looking at number 12. Oh, you mean on this?
No.
Yes. This, I was kind of merging 4 and 5 together
Oh, okay.
because it came up in the round
But,
table.
but you did that follow-up email
Mhm.
to everyone with all the feedback we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. Email. And you saw that, right? So we copied on that?
I don't think
Doesn't
they,
sound
Okay,
bad.
all right. I'll send it to you,
Allison.
or John will send it to you.
So anything else on item 4 before we officially debrief on budget roundtables?
Other than, great job.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
the videos are great. All right, next is debrief on the budget roundtables. This was an Allison suggestion, and I think it's good to just, since we did them, what did we learn? What's our recommendation maybe for next year? Again, some feedback that we got from that meeting that I referenced earlier, I think by doing them, it was the right thing, but the individual said perhaps doing them confused people a little bit more of how to engage in the budget. Again, I was an N of 1, but they were like, well, is it through the roundtables? Is it through a public hearing? Because again, there's so many avenues for people to engage. Their perspective was maybe now we have too much. And so that might have confused people on what's the best way to engage.
What do you think the difference was between pre-COVID 2019 versus this year? Like, did something change in the format, or I know it's like made some were virtual, some in person, but.
No, I think what changed was people's energy around the budget. If I'm being
Okay.
honest, I feel like we had several years where the budget didn't pass that first referendum.
Right.
And so there was kind of this question every year about what the mill rate was gonna end up being, and I think that raised people's level of concern. And now we've had a few years of this 3% mill rate goal, which for better or for worse, people know to expect.
Yep.
And so I don't think that there's as much maybe worry or anxiety about the end result, because we have a track record now of meeting that goal. But I still would have expected more engagement.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So,
I expected or thought maybe we would get at least a couple of people at each one.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, I don't know how this factored into last time, but I think it being during school vacation.
I do think that was a misstep, just because people were away.
Then they come back and they have to
Yeah,
reacclimate to.
yeah, for sure. That being said, we haven't gotten any other communication from people about the budget either. So it's like one thing to suggest that maybe people didn't come because they were away for school vacation. But then I think we are accessible. Our meetings are regular, occur at regular times. Everyone, knows where to find town council, I think. And so just the lack of emails, the lack of people speaking at either the school public hearing or our public hearing. We haven't had public comment really at finance committee meetings. And so I do think that we should consider April vacation if we move forward with the idea in terms of timing, but I don't know if it was really a
Yeah.
factor.
I mean, I think part of it might also have to do with the submission itself. Like, I don't think there's anything that seems to be getting a reaction. The only thing that I feel like we're hearing any feedback on is the library. And again, that's a small end of
Mhm.
a couple of people that we've heard from. So I don't know if there's anything in there that's surprising to people, or maybe it's your fantastic communication.
Communications,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean-
I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, to be fair, like.
Yes,
Joking aside,
we have laid the foundation, the past few years, and with Allison coming on board, like, we have made a lot of headway and changes for how people are able to get budget information.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we've seen a decrease in public participation, making public comment or speaking at meetings,
mhm,
it very much could be the result of all of that work paying out.
mhm. Agreed. But
That
again,
being said, I'm not sorry that we did them.
No.
I'm happy to go and sit, and even if we gave everybody, for public reference, we gave everybody a half an hour
Yeah.
at each session. Everyone who volunteered wise, everyone from town council and school board who said they were gonna be there was there, so I
Mhm.
appreciate their time very much. And we gave everybody a half an hour, and then we called each session after a half hour,
With the exception of the Saturday morning.
Yeah,
Saturday
which
morning.
is
right.
a really good
Yeah, that was a
conversation.
good conversation,
Yeah, it's a shame I think that one would have been worth a recording, but unfortunately, that was the one we did not record. And again, it was more, I would say, I would classify it more as like a brainstorming. It wasn't like about the budget itself as much as it was more about process and ways
And
to
make
improve.
things easier for folks.
Yeah.
when You started out the conversation, right?
Mhm.
Because you think of budget, if anybody's attempted to look at the budget, it's 157 pages, so
Mhm.
there's a lot of numbers.
I think that, I think that one of the, in that discussion, I think we kind of talked about how things have changed and evolved over the last 3, 4, 5 years, pre-COVID, when I think there was a lot more energy around the budget. I think that one of my reads on it is I think there's a lot of energy behind other issues in town right now. And I think you're right, April. I think that there's a backdrop right now too, and the confidence that spending's not going to get out of control. And so I think there's a good basis for that.
Mhm.
So I think that, I think if there's a takeaway or something to apply next year, I also don't regret that we did it. I don't even think that this is, no one showed up, so no one has the right to say anything. It's just, we provided ample opportunity for people to be involved. And I think next year, leading into budget season, to your point around school vacation, I mean, we kind of decided to do these and just when we decided that's what made sense. I think that my biggest sensitivity in scheduling those times was because the school budget's 2/3 of the budget, they were going to second reading, I think, that next week. And so if we wanted to have that much accessibility, that's just when we had to time it. I think next year being very deliberate in a whole messaging around how to get engaged.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about, there's town council meeting, there's finance committee, there's budget roundtables, there's whatever. And so people, because really the opportunity to offer comment, I mean, I think it looks a little different. I think that a budget roundtable is kind of for discussion, like Councilor Corner Live. I think that at committee meetings, it's more of a one-sided public comment. Of course, there's always email, but I think that sort of laying out that groundwork and maybe what the intentions are ahead of time, so people can actually look on the dates. Maybe if there's a differentiation between what that involvement is it a discussion, is it a comment, is it a question? I think that, because I think the question is really send in via email, and we have this FAQ document. So do you have a comment you'd like to make? Here are your opportunities to make comments. Do you want to have a conversation or know more? Here's our online resources, here's our discussions. I think that we really have refined it to a point where, again, the benefit of having Allison on now for a second year is she's, applied everything that we built last year to this year. And so I think that that's really something that at this point, I don't, to the degree we always go through this exercise of, well, how do we get more? And that's really where we were at last year. If you recall, it was really quiet last year. We said, well, what are we doing wrong? What are we missing? What do people not know? I think it's just a product of all those things, but I don't think it means that we change what we've established as opportunities.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of the feedback too that we got, was like consistency is important, because I think what some of the end of one was, there has been some changes in the book itself and then other things. And so how do we keep it consistent for a couple of years, just to really be consistent and then let people know how they can get involved? And, maybe one year there'll be more participation than others, but Yeah, I think it was great that we did it. I think I'm happy that we did it. And I think, again, thank everybody for participating. Thank you, Liam, for coming to all of them as well.
I think I really like the idea that through that discussion, and you're probably right, John, that is probably one thing we should have recorded, was that whole.
Yeah.
But I think the kind of the budget at a glance, talking about the nuts and bolts, which I think you summarized really nicely. I think that will be something we should give a lot of thought to next year with, what are the things that really matter to people? And we talked about sort of on a one-page sheet saying, here's what the goals are. Here's what the current budget in its current form means. Here's where, so what's that difference? What's the impact going to be to meet those goals? And how do you get involved? And it's just a one-page thing where they say, great, I understand the goals. I understand that we're at a 4.5%. I understand where the meetings are and how that process is going to work. And I understand how to provide feedback that I want to. And it's one page.
Yeah,
and they're
bing,
done.
bing, bing, bing.
Yeah.
And you talk about the big challenge right now with how do you get in front of people with everything else competing on social media or the newspaper or life. I think that's a really great snapshot.
Yep. Yep, me too.
Any
I'll be
other
looking for it.
next year?
Yep.
You'll be helping write it.
Mhm.
Next item is Citizens Committee Communication Strategy. So again, to set this one up, this was something that we have talked about a couple times this year about how do we get more awareness of all the great work that's happening on the citizen committees. And I think this was also prompted from our appointments and negotiations meeting where we recognize that the Housing Alliance for some reason isn't getting applicants to apply. And you would think, given a lot of the conversation around housing right now, there'd be more people interested in potentially serving on that committee. And so I think that just led to, let's have a conversation about, one, how do we get more committee information out, but also for the existing vacancies, which I think we only have a couple. We have some in the Housing Alliance, maybe
2, is it?
yeah, 2 in the Housing Alliance, and I can't remember what the other ones are, but I think they're like 1 alternate and a couple. But Allison, I know you have some ideas here.
Yes, yeah, so I was curious to hear if it's more of like ongoing, giving a platform for updates, or if it's more the filling vacancies things. And I think the recruiting is easier when there is ongoing communications from them. And so then when it comes time to recruit, people are kind of like, it's already like something that they're made aware of. But yeah, Liam and I talked about a few different ideas too. One being having a quarterly designated newsletter just for committees so that they can provide updates that are relevant for them at that time. So it's kind of like a collective space for all of the committees to contribute to. The PMAC, now Conservation Commission, they have reached out to me each spring and fall to put something like an article in the Leader and in the newsletter and on the website. And so I think that's just something that they've done routinely every year. And that's worked well for me of corresponding with them. And so maybe that could be an opportunity too, is that other committees could just see it as like knowing that they or maybe like seasonally have an update that they want to share or an article that they want to contribute to the Leader. Something that's either relevant or educational. Like a news update of something that they're working on in the meeting. So we could do it more loose like that.
I like the idea of like a focused quarterly or just semi-annually highlight of committees that they
Yeah.
just know, like this e-news, we're highlighting committee work. So everybody draft your 500 words or
I
less
like that.
on
Yeah,
what's
me
going
too.
on. Because I think, and some may want to do more if they
Right.
knew they had that option.
Yeah.
Like I think the Conservation Commission is pretty active. Some may have more things to talk about, like the Transportation Committee, I think could have some interesting stuff. I know when I get like questions from folks and it's topic specific, I'm starting to just encourage them to reach out to the committees.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like, hey, that's a good idea. You should talk to the committee on that. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's the theme. It's like, yeah, the committee on
Well,
that.
I had a question about that. If someone did want to reach out to a committee, I can't remember where we talked about this last year, I think,
Yeah.
but like, who do they email? Because the committees don't have their own email address, right? Okay.
And so I think that.
That was another good idea, just didn't have.
I don't know, that's
For a
true.
valid reason.
I think where we fell on that one was, we need to make sure we identify who the staff support is for that. And,
Okay.
and because I think that what we didn't want to do is we didn't want to set up email addresses for every single committee member. We also didn't want to make available people's personal email addresses to get in contact.
Yeah, we had 4-year.
Yeah.
4-year.
Well, and
So,
I would agree. I think we don't want people emailing them. I think we just want them to know when the meeting is and where to go.
Sure.
So that they can
That's the
participate.
point of engagement.
Yeah, I think it
is
would
in a
be-
meeting.
More push them to participate as opposed to just like reach out to the committee chair with a question. Like I feel like we wanna,
But you know what idea, and we kicked around, I don't know what the status on this is, but we have this great facility for people to connect to a specific committee and get their agenda on the Stay Connected.
yeah,
So keep that in mind. When people ask you, promote them to go to state agencies. I did that a lot with the planning board. What's going on? So
Yeah.
you can actually get the planning board agenda delivered right to your inbox.
Mm,
All you have to do is go, and it's fairly simple to do, so. Do you know what the numbers are on those?
Very low,
Yeah,
yeah. like,
which still really
Very low.
surprises me.
Yeah. Can you go to the boards and committees page of the website? I had a meeting, Ryan, who does the website, him and I connect every other week, boards and committees under government, yeah. And so I was talking with him last week about this page. On the homepage, if you click agendas and minutes, it brings you to this page. And we're just talking, when I knew this was going to be on the agenda for this meeting, we're just talking about some opportunities we have to kind of make this page a little like more inviting, or like, how do people access information when they come on here? What are they looking for, and do they get to what they're looking for quickly? Because right now it's just like, you have to know what you're going to look for. Like, you have to know that you're going in to look at updates on Housing Alliance or something. You can't just see kind of like the most recent chronologically of all of the boards and committees. So we're kind of looking at how this page could better draw people in, or even just like visually, like having them all as like blocks, like on that what's happening
Yeah.
projects page.
Have a
and
little tag
learning
saying
more.
vacancies here or something.
Yeah, they're on the top right now. It's like the first thing. So those are the current vacancies.
Oh, okay.
But even
Yep.
that, it's
Yep.
like, that doesn't stand
It
out
was
to
like a
you.
card, yeah.
Yeah, or it tells you like how many vacancies on each or something. And even if you like click into a lot of these committees, some are very well built out with resources, but other ones are almost bare. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to kind of like revamp.
mhm.
Yeah.
For things like the planning board, like I would assume that one's a little bit more.
Oh, see, that
Well, you
has
do have a
more
contact
information.
to the committee liaisons too, with your
Oh,
liaisons,
yeah.
right,
staff liaison.
staff and council.
That's good. I mean, we could just tell people if they want to reach out to go to the committee liaisons.
Yeah.
tab, and they can at least reach out to the counselor or the staff person.
So now we have something like 30+ committees,
Committees.
boards and committees, but in terms of the ones that are actually active, I mean, I think
Mm.
those are the ones that we'd be looking for. Again, a quarterly news, I think it'd be a special
Okay.
edition newsletter
Yeah,
as opposed to just replacing a regular one. But
right.
I think that, you know, and going back to one of those fundamental questions we have, or people ask us about, well, you know, the council's taking up this issue, where did it come from? You know,
Right.
so it's been
Right.
being worked on and workshop by the sustainability committee for the last 6 months. And so I think what I think there's might be some value in is not only reporting out what they've done, but to the degree they know what's coming up, so people can kind of know that they're gonna be talking about EV charging stations and new development. And that's something that they see coming up in their next month's meeting or down the pike. And so I think that just adds to, it kind of brings it back to where things begin before they get to council. So there's more of a fundamental.
Do you guys know how far along the long-range planning committee is in terms of the action plan that they were working with the committees on? Because I feel like that becomes like a really,
For the comp plan?
yeah, that becomes like almost like a good list of things to say, hey, these are the types of things that this committee is gonna work on it. I know they came to
We would
transportation
think our,
committee.
our liaison should be giving us a heads up, so 50 things don't come over transit all at once.
Yeah.
but I know they're working it.
Yeah, they came to transportation and presented. I don't, and I think they came to conservation, I wanna say, maybe, or one of the committees and presented, but I don't know if they've made the rounds to everyone. But I think that, to me, is like a really good, at least what they shared with transportation, it was like very good communications of like, these are the things you guys could do.
Right.
Which ones do you wanna do first? And I
Right.
think we just kind of left it with the list, but didn't commit to anything.
That would definitely be a good one for an update.
Yeah.
But
Anything else on citizen committee communications?
When are we thinking about pulling that together?
Yeah, and who should I be reaching out to? The committee chair for each or the committee liaison on staff?
Well, I think that if this is gonna be, I guess it's kind of one of those ones that's kind of overlap between this committee and staff. I would propose that maybe with your endorsement, staff. Allison, this is the royal we, maybe send out a letter, a letter to committee chairs and say, this is what we envision doing, here's what we envision this looking like, and then we set a date. Maybe it's a, July date or something like that, and say on a quarterly basis, we're gonna, and not every committee's gonna have an update.
Right.
Because there are lots of those
But
committees
it's
that
like
don't
rotating
meet,
opportunity.
or they only meet as, I don't expect a, the Board of Assessment Review, giving an update on what cases they hear for, but the ones that kind of do meet regularly, the ones that don't meet regularly but did meet, what's going on with them? And so I don't think that, it might cover 5, 7, 9 committees
Yeah.
on a quarterly
Yeah.
basis, something like that.
I think from a consistency standpoint, each committee being reached out to in the same way,
Mhm.
because I was trying to think like, okay, well, if we as liaisons trying to do it, but like conservation, they meet tonight. So if I didn't, if I didn't know, let them know tonight, like then now we're all of a sudden, we're all
Next month.
ready into June, and so, it's way more consistent if it comes from the Royal League.
Right, right. But no, but I do think, to your point, I think that the council liaisons who are active participants or attendees probably need to, on behalf of the council, speak to this initiative and say, someone from staff.
Yeah,
that speaks to the
absolutely.
fundamentals.
Yeah, I will
You can
put that
do
in
your
my
part,
notes
yeah.
for all my committees,
Yeah,
sure.
would be another good one, and it just reminded me that I did not get a reminder come up on my, is, as I was gonna get a hold of Art Dillon about firing up the cable committee again, because again, we can come up with some new content. Just what we talked about in general, that'd be a great update to push out. To get maybe people to start going back to channel 3 communication.
Allison, do you have an idea in mind of when you're trying to do this first one, or is it?
I'm open to anything, but realistically, when you said July, I feel like that makes sense because we're focusing kind of on pushing the budget and election from mid-June.
I would say any earlier than July,
Yeah.
but I think that the summer's also kind of a
Mm.
slower time
Yeah.
for council historically. So probably a good time to get it going.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just thinking of when I follow up, because I can follow up with the counselors
Yeah.
to just say, hey, we're gonna be targeting doing a July special edition for committees, so they might be seeing or hearing information coming soon for them to work with their chairs to
Mhm.
help craft something if it's appropriate, or if they feel like they wanna give an update. Okay, great.
Great.
All right. Item 7, June Counselor Corner live topics. So again, we talked about trying to do these every other month, and we did the last one in April, and we said, let's try and do one at the end of June. And going forward, we're gonna try and bring the topics to the council, based on what we agreed to today, hopefully, or even if it's just a couple options that we wanna bring forward to see if there's any items that the other counselors might wanna highlight. So hopefully we can bring that as a, I don't know if it needs to be a non-action item or what, how. Yeah, or we can just kind of share the committee's recommendation for a topic and a date and see if there's any other ideas or or discussion that people want to share.
You might want to reach out to the chair to see how he wants to do it, because when we did, remember, when we were gonna move forward with a survey,
Mhm.
we did an action item for the council to, and that wasn't the appropriation of money or whatever, it was just to move forward with that endeavor, so.
I'll reach out to him.
Yeah,
I
just see
gave
what-
him a heads up on Friday. I
Okay.
said, we're gonna talk about it today and
Yeah.
hopefully get it on the next agenda. And I'll defer to him on how,
Because that would be the 18th, correct?
how we'd like to handle it. if
Or
we want to.
For June 1? Guys gotta do it again.
Well, it depends on the
Depends on the
topic.
topic,
Yeah.
right? Like if other counselors feel really passionately about a topic and they want to lead, I'm happy to
Mhm.
let them lead. If it's my choice, I would like to do one on conservation in Scarborough.
Good one.
I think that's one that I would feel comfortable leading and use my liaison contacts to, generate interest. So that would be my
Mhm.
contribution or suggestion for one.
I think that's a good one, because I think that people are passionate about that topic. 'Cause I think one of the things we're trying to do is a topic that people
Yeah.
will actually want to come. Yeah, because I think the growth one definitely got people to come because of the topic. I think that's why budget is not a topic. I think a lot of people, if we throw it out there, I don't know if people are like, ooh, I want to talk about
You're gonna
that.
take my money?
Used to,
No, I
yeah.
don't even
Yeah,
wanna
they used to, but
Used
not
to.
so much anymore. And then the one that was brought up, and I got an email about it again, was, trying to remember how to frame it, but it was Allison Bristol's recommendation around having a conversation about how do people want to engage with public officials?
Yeah.
And so I thought that's a good idea too. I worry that that might not draw a crowd, or I don't know how we would market that to make it
Right.
enticing, but I thought it's a good idea because the whole purpose of Council Corner Live is to try something different. We tried the roundtables, so we're coming off of that, but could that be a topic where we just say, hey, we want to hear from you on how you want to be engaged, or what's the confusion about being engaged, because we have so many avenues.
I,
Yeah, I don't know how you deal with that.
I see that as kind of like a segment of, like the council corner live, every time you have it, you like end it the
That's a
last
good idea.
10 minutes or something, just kind of with that
Yeah.
feedback.
Yeah.
Subtopic.
Yeah, I guess I think it's also possibly a good opportunity for, one was just kind of falling by the wayside. Was this putting out sort of short surveys, maybe in the newsletter. And I think that sort of how do you want to engage, what works for you, virtual, in person, days, whatever it is. I guess I don't think in the process of engaging with people, do I want to have, like, we're engaging with people on how to engage with people. It just feels like process on process on process. It's like, right, yeah. And so I think it's probably a valid topic and something worthy of exploring, but I think that there are probably some more meaty subjects, and again, whether it's conservation
Yeah.
or whatever else, to actually have a discussion. Let's engage with people on a real discussion or a real subject, not engage on how to engage.
I think a lot of the positive feedback we got was people enjoyed the format for reasons because they said they felt like they were heard. And they did reference things like the planning board and other opportunities where they feel like they don't have the same opportunity to be heard, and they're not sure what's the right way to get heard if they go to a forum that they think is where they're supposed to go, but they're limited in what they can say because they are only given 3 minutes. And so I think it was that's what I recall in some of the conversation. But again, it kind of came out naturally by just having the forum. And I like your idea of we can always try and end these with the question of like, how would you like to be engaged or something like that?
Well, just to build on your point too, because what I'm finding when people said they feel they're not heard, other than that forum, because that was unique. But even when they go to the meetings, they feel they're not heard, because people fully don't understand public comment.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a Q&A with whatever committee you're with.
Mhm.
And I remember doing it when I was too public. I always thought they were just looking at me with a deer in the headlights, like, you know, and not necessarily expecting an answer, but were they hearing me?
Mhm.
So again, that's always an opportunity for a counselor in whatever form we're doing, is to try to inform the folks. Because I remember a young lady there, she talked about the planning board. And 3 minutes wasn't enough, but I know they weren't listening to me. And it's because it's not a Q&A, so always the opportunity. I digress. How about the engagement? Which way do you engage? Why don't we commit to a job survey?
I like that.
And that could go out, what, via the newsletter and Facebook?
Yep.
I don't think we need a pro to help us design the questions, right? You've done this enough to know what's the best way would you like to engage with us?
I wonder too if there's like an opportunity to just list out the ways you can engage and the
Right.
And
rules.
then you,
Right.
yeah, you either rank
Yeah.
them or check off,
Mhm.
open.
It almost goes back to Liam's comment about the budget, like how there are many ways to engage. If you want to give a 3-minute speech,
Yep.
but, and not necessarily have a conversation, then
Right.
your best avenue is come and give public comment or send an email.
Right.
If you actually want to have a back and forth, call the counselor, or there are many ways you can have a back and forth. So I think there might need to be a little bit of, it might be an opportunity to get a survey, but also to do some education on
Yeah,
how you can engage.
and I think the survey responses will help inform us of how we can better educate.
That's
Yeah,
right.
That's
If
true.
people keep saying, I want to make a comment, but no one's responding,
Yeah.
can we educate about?
Because I think one of our lessons learned that we said going forward in the counselor corners, we want to, request that people don't come prepared with like a 5-minute statement, that it really is more of a conversation. So if people would prefer to have a statement, then submit it in advance or read it at a public comment or send it to the council. But for the Council Corner Lives, I think the intent is very conversational, questions back and forth, not so much, reading a 4-minute statement that you want to read.
So did we decide that the next one will be in June, or are you gonna bring something to the council with a discussion on conservation?
I mean, any other
And you
ideas? We
mentioned-
could do
what else did you
traffic.
mention?
I don't want to do traffic, but you guys could do traffic.
I want to do a Downs exemption. Okay.
Yeah. I think traffic is good. Traffic is complicated though.
Well, that's why I don't want to do traffic, mainly because I feel like I would be so over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, material wise, that would be very challenging for
Yeah.
me. I would have to,
Yeah, well,
I don't know
MDOT
if I
said
have
that they
time to-
supply us with a lot of information, but right, I don't know if the timing is.
right, you want to talk about deer in the headlights, I think I would be.
So when you talk about conservation, are you talking about land conservation? Are you talking about conservation and sustainability? What-
Yeah,
how would
I
you frame
think,
it?
I think we would just build on kind of what Jamie had done for the grant application and just say like, what are your, concern topics or, parts of Scarborough that you want to talk about, or, things that you've seen happening in town that you think need a light, shown on them, and kind of just leave it open to whatever topics people want to talk about. I was really surprised by the variety of things that people were coming to during that forum. Things that I don't think I had no idea, like just how bad the erosion is in some places around town. And obviously the litter is concerning to people, across the marsh and. So,
Yeah, no, it would be a good topic, and I think a lot of folks in Scarborough are interested in that. I would definitely be armed with anything and everything we can do with the land conservation committee, all recent purchases. What is owned where.
yeah,
Because we
and
do
just if
conserve.
people wanted to have a discussion about how to conserve more or how to bring proposals forward for land conservation, just make sure that.
Have a Scarborough Land Trust there as well. Just for- I
Yeah.
think they attended our,
The
Council Corner Live.
yeah, the executive director.
Yeah.
So you want to keep it to, so really conservation, so land conservation, or do you want to tie it to?
I would
other
say,
sort of-
what was Jamie's technically called?
Climate change,
Oh, hers was climate
resiliency.
change, resiliency.
I like land conservation.
That one was more.
I think of climate change as like a bigger
Right.
separate issue, and I think of land conservation almost as a tactic to address climate change, but it's its own like big.
Is land
Topic.
conservation too narrow?
I don't think if you tie it in with sustainability,
Yeah.
because sustainability, from what I understand Jamie does too, is help people in Scarborough build solar if they want to, try,
Well, that's, yeah,
right?
I mean,
It's all, conservation is land, conservation is energy, all impacts climate change, but it's a thought.
I like the idea though. I think it'll draw a crowd, and again, I
Yeah.
think similar to growth, we can keep it a little bit. Like, I think if you just
Crowd
say,
dynamic.
this is what we're talking about, people will show up and talk about what they want to talk about.
Yeah.
So again, not to hijack, but do you want to say things like, something like conservation and sustainability in Scarborough?
Yeah.
And have it
I
broad?
think that's great.
Nice,
Yeah.
catchy,
Yeah.
Yeah, would you want to do that in like the public safety building?
You really love the public.
Oh,
safety
just-
building.
I do, I'm
Just took
having
the
a
words out
meeting
of my
next
mouth.
Thursday, there'll be 80 people there. Where else, there's no other place to go. The thing about, again, the
I like
reason why I
chambers.
push it is thinking of sustainability conservation. It's got that big drop down 80-inch television that you can run on your laptop. You can have slides up there and all kinds of things. There's a bathroom right there and the police are right there. Everybody feel comfortable.
Not, well, I will push back a little bit. Not everybody loves police for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, but they're behind
And so
the
they may,
windows.
you're trying to make an argument that they should love it there. People might not like going to the police station, although I do think as a public service and a public facility, we should hopefully make most people feel very comfortable there. So I appreciate your suggestion. I don't,
Well, it's,
I don't
you
think
can have it anywhere you want.
yeah,
It's
I
your
don't think I
show.
necessarily.
If the theme is on conservation, is there a location that you guys could think of that's like kind of like a good like example of what the town is doing, like any place where we have a lot
How
of
about
solar
Agawam
panels
Hall?
or
Right? To conserve the historic building there. It hasn't been used for any public meeting yet. Does it function?
if it had solar panels and stuff on it, I think that would be cool, but I don't.
Access for public meetings continues to be probably a concern.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate I mean, I think that, I guess my feeling is, let's not make a meal out of this. I think we have a few good spots
Right.
to,
I agree.
I think public safety building is perfectly fine, and the chamber is perfectly fine. I think just going back to the last council point, I know that the owl presented some challenges.
Yeah.
Can we just touch on that for a minute? I mean, we did have some remote participation, which was nice. I guess I'd still like to do that. I think that we would probably strategically put the owl, I think we'd just be more deliberate in our setup. So maybe on the middle of the room, however we want to do that. But
Does this somehow sync with the mic, like if we have a mic? Because I think that was what I heard perhaps from people online, was it was hard to hear the people in the back. If they were close to the owl, it worked, but
And remember, YouTube, when I YouTubed it a couple days later, it was a totally different meeting. I didn't have any issue with the owl. It was the interface to the cable net. That's what Peter and I felt.
Gotcha.
Because
Okay.
you're gonna have a lot of folks that aren't gonna jump on a computer and YouTube it, that can hit channel 3.
Well, I mean, we could also just ask, knowing what the limitations are, that if they want to make a comment, they can come closer.
Yeah.
So I think there are other things we can do to improve it, but I mean, even with the remote participation, it had some drawbacks to a conversation, right? I mean, that was really more geared towards someone making a comment and then you responding as opposed to a conversational tone.
Yeah.
So, I like the idea just from accessibility, this day and age, should people be able to do that. I also wouldn't, if you felt strong enough to say, it's a conversation in person, if you want to come and have a conversation, you're welcome to do that. But
Yeah.
That's kind of the limitation for it.
we could still broadcast it and they can join. It's just would be like, we're limiting conversation to people on the room. I think that would be fine. Like, I wouldn't have any issues with that. I mean,
It's also one of those things where I feel like we're gonna be back to square one, where we're like, how many people are gonna show up?
Yeah.
We might be get 3,
Right,
that,
and then
you
if we
know.
have 3 active participants online, we're gonna be bringing them in.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, right.
yeah,
So I think keeping things smooth, but yeah.
yeah,
No, I like the title. I think it'd be generally some good conversation. I also like leaving it broad.
Yeah.
Because someone else is gonna say, great conservation, I want to talk about conserving energy. So what are we doing
Right.
there? Other
Yeah.
person's gonna say, well, let's talk about land trust. Other person might say, what are we doing about sea level rise and how we're gonna have a sustainable community because the Route 1 connector is gonna be washed away here in 5 years. So,
do we want to suggest a date to while we're here? Because we'll have a council meeting on, I'm assuming, we could do 2 on June, right?
Council meetings, yes.
Yeah.
We have one the 1st.
The 1st and the 15th.
Yeah.
So if we were to do it, and I think ideally we would try and do it too before school gets out, right? Because I think after that, once people start going on vacation.
And when does school get out?
17th is the last day of school.
So,
People are also like so insanely busy that last 2 weeks before school gets out.
that's it.
I don't know.
also we did on Thursday.
Yeah,
Mm.
So the 16th, we have ordinance committee. We also got some, so that one we started the council corner at 6:30,
I think we started at
5:30.
5:30.
5:30, okay.
Yeah.
And people said that that was inconvenient because it's during the dinner hour. So
Right.
we suggested a later meeting for that.
I would say maybe we start at 6:30. Would that, if we were to do it?
Yeah, that's not too late. Yeah, that should be after dinner.
So
Uh,
April, do you think we would want to do it? Could we do it as early as June 9th, or would that be too soon?
No, I think the 9th would actually probably be worse.
Okay,
Because then people are still in the swing of school, whereas that Thursday before the last day of school, at that point, praise be, most things have wrapped.
Mhm.
All of the after-school assemblies and end-of-year concerts and ceremonies and all this stuff will have ended. So I think the 16th is a good target.
Okay, so ordinance will be done by 6. So we
Okay.
had to start 6:30.
6:30.
6:30. And the topic is, so June 16th at 6:30 with the topic of,
Conservation and sustainability in Scarborough.
What day is the 16th?
Thursday.
Thursday.
do we want to do a motion or anything on this? So that we can bring it to the council as a recommendation?
So moved. Just as you voted.
Second.
Council Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilor Anderson.
Yes. Great. All right, next item is item 8, e-news counselor corners for June and July. So this is just planning for the next couple topics. I think technically, Ken, you might be up in the rotation. 'Cause I
Well-
think Jean Marie, myself, John, and April, and Dawn will have done everything up to this point.
Okay.
So, so I think June,
Well, we could talk. June's not good for me.
at all.
I'm gonna be away,
Okay,
for 10 days. I actually have a July, so.
do we do 2 in July or do we just do 1 in July?
Cause you're
I
talking
mean, we've
both the
always done the
evenings
first half of
and.
the evening,
Right,
yeah,
right.
the first and the 15th for
Okay.
meetings.
I'll do July.
You want to do 1 in July?
I'll do the last one in July that will go to the leader,
Okay.
if that's acceptable.
April, would you want to do anything post-budget vote as finance chair that first week of June prior to the vote?
Prior to the vote. Can,
Just to like
just to
wrap up.
call,
but have to do
restate the
2-1,
goals, say
Yeah.
where we landed,
What they're voting
Just
on.
what they're voting on. Yeah, I can do that one.
So that would be, let's make sure I get the right due date this time. So
No, I like the cold sweat of finding out
Yeah.
that I have to have something due to Alice in 4 hours.
I know, the day out.
Keep
So
it a surprise.
if
Yeah.
it would go out on June 1st, is that when it would go
No,
out?
yeah, I don't know about the leader.
Okay, so June,
Yeah, well.
That's a Wednesday.
Well, the later date.
Okay, so the leader would need, they would need it the Thursday before that.
because you go out the 1st, so I would need it by May
27th.
26th. I have to get it to
Oh,
her on. by COB
26, yeah,
On COB Thursday.
26 to be out on the 3rd. However, the vote is
The 15th,
15th, could actually go
14th.
another week.
if the leader's not.
For the
gonna be
leader.
first. It's
It could,
historically been
it could
the first
appear in the
week.
newsletter first, is
Yeah.
what you're saying, and then the leader the following
Yeah,
week. Do you think strategically that's the better?
I think
I
so.
do-
You
think so,
could,
too.
and you can always massage it a little differently for the leader, because sometimes the topic had not changed, but an action took place
Sure.
or something.
Yeah, and
Sure.
also I had that first week in the leader dedicated for the in the know column being about the budget and the
Oh,
election
okay.
stuff,
So
so it
that's
might
good.
help to like stagger
Stagger
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
So then that would be
Should we do-
June 2nd.
yeah, so, but you need it for Allison by the 31st.
yes, I would need it the day, June, the day before June 1st.
31st.
All right, so, and Monday's Memorial Day, so
Mhm.
I will make sure you have that,
Then I'll get it to
probably
Leader on
Friday
the
the
2nd.
27th.
Okay.
So Ken, you might do one in July.
Yep.
You know what, I'll check with Jean Marie to see if she wants to do anything as well, because you had mentioned she was interested in doing one potentially, right?
Yes.
A couple weeks ago, so she might have.
Oh,
a
she
topic.
hasn't, she said,
Yeah.
all right, just let me know.
Okay. So we'll do April, then Jean Marie potentially.
Or June 15th.
Unless June wins the election, then it might be different.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
It's just a primary.
yeah, it's just a primary.
Oh, that's right. Well, still might be different. No.
Yeah.
But she did, she committed to it, so she'd do it.
All right, Counselor Kenner, May 27th.
And then I'll just pencil myself in for the 1st July, Ken, you for the middle. It can be whatever topic we want to talk about. I don't think it needs to be anything specific at this point. Or is there anything top of mind for you guys that you would think we would want to highlight?
Last year, the June 15th one was that the council approved the budget and kind of like talking about. Or I think it was the June 1st one, because the council would have approved the municipal budget before that, right? So that's what the June one was last year, so.
But, oh, you mean the e-newsletter?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do.
You know, it might be an interesting one to do for the 1st of July is whoever wins the election, just have them do like a.
Yeah.
Oh,
intro
like
of
an
themselves.
intro, yeah. that's a
Yep,
good point.
that's a great idea.
And then, yeah, we'll just
Yeah, that's
give them a heads up.
easy peasy.
Yeah,
Probably ought to send a note to the candidates, just to let them know.
Oh. I don't think I got that
Going right
kind
in
of
the
no, I don't think I got that kind of notice.
Well, that's right. They'll have, well, they'll have,
in
they'll have
Do
7
like a
days
couple
after they get elected.
yeah. They'll have some time. I mean, you should have a lot of content, I would hope, in this website.
And they should be following along with this meeting
Yeah.
Right,
So they-
obviously,
yeah,
all
they're
the
all-
candidates are
all put on
watching
notice.
all the committee meetings.
on YouTube, but not on Zoom. No one's on Zoom.
All right, any other topics for e-news or Counselor Corner?
Not as long as you've got the master calendar, you
Got it.
feel good?
Yep,
Okay,
I want.
thank you for
let me
wrangling
in
that.
October.
October.
Okay, so that'll be my last leader.
That is insane
Until
that
your
you were
reelection,
thinking about that.
until your reelection, you mean?
No, it's my exit one, but it'll be nice.
All right. Item 9 is public comment.
What if I want that one for my exit one?
Because you're not going in.
Well, we have 2 in October, so.
I'm just teasing because you are thinking that far ahead. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
about
already got it
the
ready.
next
No
5
no
years.
comments? All right, item 10, future agenda items. Any topics?
Well, we're gonna meet in June, are we gonna meet in July?
I don't think we should meet in July.
Right, okay,
I think,
yeah, take July
What's
off for the committee side.
yeah.
And we, We took all of July off on the council last year, and I think everybody said that was not a good idea. So I
I
don't
think
think.
it made for a very painful meeting in August.
Right,
Or a succession of painful meetings.
right.
I think if we're gonna keep the council corner alive, we might want to meet in June with potentially just the topic of making sure we're all set for.
Yeah,
Council
why don't
Corner
we do
Live.
that?
And then that, maybe we can make it virtual, because I wouldn't think it would be a big meeting, so that it's more convenient for you guys, if that works.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Just basically check in and make sure
Yeah.
that we're on track and
Mhm.
it's fine.
Okay,
Good idea.
Well, all right, item 11 is adjournment.
So move.
Second,
Council Snyder?
yes.
Council John?
Yes.